really good to be back, giving the message in the little church world once again. And I feel very privileged to be able to give the Christmas message this year, not only because it's my favourite time of year, but because without the gift of Christmas, we would all be on a road worse than to nowhere. So where should I start? I feel like I should sing the next few words, but I will save you from that and instead just put the sound of music into your head by saying, let's start at the very beginning. That's a very good place to start. Well, when will the beginning be, you might ask? And I'm going to tell you that the beginning of time is recorded in the book of Genesis, which is the very first book of the 66 books contained in the Bible. And incidentally, it's also a book accepted by two other major faith systems, namely Judaism and Islam. Now, some of you may already be rolling your eyes because you don't believe that the Bible has any value today. But I'm going to ask you to bear with me and keep an open mind, because since time began, no one in all of history has been able to prove the Bible to be false, nor has anyone come up with any concrete evidence to show a credible alternative. All that does exist to contradict the Bible are a variety of human theories, such as the theory of evolution, for example. But even though this particular theory has been quite widely accepted, it is nonetheless still a theory, or more accurately, a hypothesis, because it has never been tested to the extent that it can be called a theory. By contrast, numerous events recorded in the Bible have already been confirmed through the uncovering of evidence. And, as has been the case in the past, I believe evidence will continue to unfold to reveal more and more biblical events to be confirmed truths. But let's now return to the beginning and a few specific words that are recorded in Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, to be like us." The word "our" is the first indication that God is a triune God, God in three persons. Of course, the concept of a triune God is hardly the first conclusion one might come to. In fact, anyone reading this might suspect that he was actually talking to someone distinctly separate from himself, perhaps the angels. But even though heaven's angels are good, their image is entirely different. Besides, just to ensure we don't cling on to this easiest of explanations to brush the issue away, in Genesis 1, verse 27, we can read, "So God created mankind in his own image." The word "his" is very definitely singular. So here we have God at the beginning of time, described as both singular and plural. It took approximately another 4,000 years for the two other personas of the triune God to be revealed. But throughout that time, God was constantly preparing mankind for the revelations by giving chosen men prophetic words that would eventually serve as evidence due to the fact that they were recorded. In fact, there are hundreds of prophecies as to how and when we would meet the second person of the triune God, Jesus. And when he did come exactly as prophesied hundreds of years before, he also paved the way for the third person, the Holy Spirit. However, today I want to focus upon Jesus, for it's his birthday that is being celebrated by thousands of people who already know and love him. In reality, Christmas is being celebrated by many others who don't have a relationship with him. And for reasons, perhaps even unknown to themselves, they are captivated. Obviously, with hundreds of prophecies foretelling the coming of Jesus, I couldn't possibly hope to share all of them today, but I think I can highlight sufficient to show that God the Son, Jesus Christ, is the one God the Father sent to willingly give himself to be a sacrifice for all who would wish to be reunited with God in heaven when their time on earth comes to an end. So, let's get started on looking at some key prophecies. First, I want to introduce a prophecy recorded in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. Isaiah is the 23rd book of the Old Testament, and it was written approximately 740 years before Christ was born. Yet in it we can read, "Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Then, in chapter 5, verse 2 of Micah, the 33rd book of the Old Testament, which was written between 700 and 735 years before Christ was born, we can read that a coming ruler would be born in Bethlehem. "But you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, are only a small village in Judah, yet a ruler of Israel will come from you, one whose origins are from the distant past." For those of you who know the biblical story of Jesus riding on a donkey into Jerusalem shortly before he was to be crucified, did you know that this event was spoken of 480 years before Christ was even born? It is recorded in chapter 9, verse 9 of the book of Zechariah, which is the 38th book of the Old Testament. "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." We can go right back to 1,000 years before Christ's birth to read in the 19th book of the Bible, Psalms, that Jesus would be betrayed by a friend. In Psalm 41:9 we can read, "Even my own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me." The fulfillment of this prophecy came to pass when Jesus was actually betrayed by Judas Iscariot. His words, which mirrored those prophesied 1,000 years earlier, were shared with his disciples, and they're recorded in John chapter 13, verse 18, which is the 4th book of the New Testament. If you've ever been betrayed, you'll know just how painful it is. But so significant was this betrayal that even today in the Western world, and perhaps further afield, the name of Judas is used to describe a person who betrays another. Following his betrayal, Jesus was crucified, and yet again, this event was spoken of 1,000 years before Christ was even born. In fact, in Psalm 22 alone, there are 11 prophecies about the death of Jesus. But I'm just going to focus upon those which are generally known as reflecting the way in which Jesus died to all who have heard about his life and death. For those who have never heard, please take the time to check out and verify what I'm saying, because there is so much evidence to confirm the events as fact and not fiction. In Psalm 22, the psalmist writes, "All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. I am poured out like water. and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax. It has melted within me. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. They pierce my hands and my feet. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes amongst them and cast lots for my garments. Dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. Maybe a scheming man could manipulate some situations to make it appear that he is the fulfillment of a prophecy. But certainly it would not be an easy thing to do, particularly so when it comes to creating the events surrounding one's own death. And how on earth could anyone ensure his own birth could match that predicted in so many, many ways? That is, of course, unless you are God. All in all, throughout the Old Testament, the birth, life, and death of the prophesied Messiah is presented. And then, in the New Testament, we see how the prophecies regarding the coming of the Messiah are fulfilled in every single way by Jesus. Without details, I want to quickly highlight these. The Messiah will be born in Bethlehem. The Messiah will be born of a virgin. The Messiah will be a prophet like Moses. The Messiah will enter Jerusalem triumphantly. The Messiah will be rejected by his own people. The Messiah will be betrayed by one of his followers. The Messiah will be betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. The Messiah will be tried and condemned. The Messiah will be silent before his accusers. The Messiah will be smitten and spat upon. The Messiah will be mocked and taunted. The Messiah to die by crucifixion with pierced hands and feet. The Messiah will suffer with sinners. The Messiah's garments will be divided by casting lots. The Messiah's bones will not be broken. The Messiah will die as a sin offering. The Messiah will see his seed. The Messiah will be buried in a rich man's tomb. The Messiah will be raised from the dead. The Messiah will sit at God's right hand. Whilst we need to wait to observe the final one for ourselves, there is more than enough evidence, including a great deal from men who were considered hostile witnesses, in that they were not his followers, but in fact worked for the government of the day, to whom Jesus was anything but welcome. Today, over 2 billion people are committed to Jesus Christ. But did God the Son really have to die such a horrendous death? The answer is yes. But he was not a victim of the Jews or the Roman Empire. They had no jurisdiction over him. This is why Jesus stated to Pontius Pilate in John 19:11, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." Jesus sacrificed himself in fulfillment of the plan that God had designed from the beginning of time to enable fallen men and women all around the world to have the opportunity to be cleansed from personal sins that would otherwise block them from entering heaven at death. Given that every single human being is guilty of sin of one sort or another, We all need the gift that only Jesus can offer. So acceptance of the gift he offers is absolutely necessary for all who want heaven to be their destination of choice. Christmas is a time of gift-giving for many, many people around the world. But no one can possibly give you a gift today that comes close to the one that Jesus is offering. But like any gift that is left under the Christmas tree unopened, it's of no value whatsoever unless it is opened and received. And if you fail to receive the gift Jesus came to bring, he won't be able to bless your life throughout eternity. One of God's most precious gifts was to give all mankind the freedom of choice, which means the right to choose him for themselves. But of course, choices come with benefits and/or consequences. And I wouldn't like to walk without his amazing protection and blessings, especially when they're so readily available. If what I've revealed about Jesus Christ today serves to make you think and determined to check out the authenticity of all that I have said, then that is fantastic. Please do. I'm so certain that if you check it out, as many men have done in the past, and women, you will find I'm speaking the truth. I'm not wanting you to discover that, to say how knowledgeable I am, or because I crave any praise. I simply rejoice because I know that if you come to the conclusion or go on to discover that I'm speaking the truth, then you are more likely to accept the gift that Jesus is offering you. And that when your time on earth comes to an end, you too will be guaranteed to move to heaven rather than hell. That's a great reason for me to rejoice. And it's the Christmas gift that I'd like to point you towards this Christmas. For if you receive it, I know that you'll be receiving the best gift it will ever be possible for you to receive. Will it change your life? Absolutely, but only for the better. And I can honestly say that I've never known anyone who has regretted their decision to follow Christ. And I've never known anyone who really knows him to ever turn away from him. If you have already received this gift, then of course I'm really happy for you. But I do want to remind you that you must share your gift. For we are not meant to keep it to ourselves. In fact, in the passage known as the Great Commission, the Lord expressly tells us to share the good news so that others can be equally blessed. Now, on behalf of everyone in the Little Church world, I would like to wish you a blessed Christmas. And I'd also like to offer those of you seeking the truth a little booklet entitled A Gift for You. If you would like one, free of charge, or if you have any questions regarding today's message, please email goodnews@thelittlecHurchworld.org. I wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas.